So I won't go through all of these except to highlight a couple of different things. Something that we're going through right now is the well number 10. Well number 10 was drilled. It came in very well. It will be a high producing well for us. Costs were significantly higher than we thought they were going to be when that was originally estimated. It was a couple of years ago. There have been some things changed since then. Also, we have 6 booster station replacements, which are also scheduled. Those came in also quite a bit higher because there had been some regulation changes. They used to be able to be located in the ground. Now they have to be above the ground. We have power systems that need to be integrated, auxiliary power systems, so on and so forth. So again, trying to get the system up to where it can serve our citizens in the long term, but also in cases of power outages and those sorts of things. One of the things with the booster station replacements is also to provide fire flow in areas of the city where pressures aren't what they should be. So we should get those issues addressed with this. Lot of different capital projects, as you can see, and as the rate study moves forward and we're able to identify capital improvements, we will be constantly assessing these to see if maybe some of them can fall by the wayside if we can address them in other ways. Those are all things that our people are looking at as we're moving forward. Sewer capital, same thing. The wastewater treatment plant is currently going into phase 5. Temperature, we're trying to see what the issue will be there, looking at what our National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit issued by the EPA regulates, but we have probably at least one more upgrade to that system. We also have in our sewer rate study, we're anticipating a 4.5% increase. If you'll recall, there was a time when these increases were above 8%, and that was to address some of the big issues we had, specifically with accumulating funding and being able to pay for some of the revenue bonds in order to meet those EPA regulations. So we're finally feeling like we're getting ahead of those a little bit. But we'll continue to look at that, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to do the rate study in FY2017. So sanitation capital funds, rate adjustment is 3% per the 2012 sanitation rate study. We are currently we're in the midst of a rate study at this point. A lot of the technical work has been completed. That rate study will be looked at with the Citizens Committee as we did in the 2012 rate study. It's anticipated that we're looking at probably around 3%, but hopefully we'll get some more clarification of that. You're seeing operating expense increases of about 4.9, but we'll know more after that rate study is completed. So 3% is what's anticipated in the FY2017 budget. Our miscellaneous funds, fleet information systems, and debt service, these are just some of the things that we're looking at this next year. It's always an interesting time when we talk about what's necessary in the fleet. Contrary to popular belief, it isn't that this pickup is 10 years old now and needs to be replaced. Our fleet folks do a really good job of looking at what the vehicle is used for, how many miles are on it, how often it's been in the shop, so on and so forth. A lot of the same things that we do as individuals in our personal vehicles. And they do a great job out there. Every year they generate what's known as the minimum use list, much to the chagrin of other departments, because they get a visit from both the fleet manager and get a call from my office saying, do you really need this vehicle that's sitting around? And sometimes they do. We have a large number of pickups that our part-time crews utilize in the summer, and they sit for much of the rest of the year. They tend to be the lower value pickups that are fairly old, but they'll still get a visit from Tyler if it comes up on the low use list. We also have some things, forklift, roller compactor, those sorts of things that we're trying to develop a program by which these things that are used for a specialty, not used very often, but when you need them, you need them. And typically when you need them is in construction season, when you can't lease them because contractors have leased them all, and all you can really do is buy it new. Yet we don't want to buy it until we absolutely have to. So again, the fleet department is looking at ways to accumulate funding so that they utilize the one that we have until it just won't go anymore, and then we replace it. So I'm very proud of the way those guys are looking at that. Information systems, again, you guys all have iPads, cell phones, computers. We have a voice over IP system in the city. We televise council meetings. It's pretty ubiquitous. Our website, social media, all that sort of thing. Information systems is what makes that work. So over the last 15 years, closer to 17 years now, we have gone from having no information systems department to having 5 people, and we're barely keeping up now. So, and as you know, with all the constant threats, you probably noticed lately you're getting a lot more spam in your email. There are constant threats from the internet that we have folks working on that all the time. So that's also protecting the public system. Debt Service Fund, LID Service, and LID Construction. LID debt service and construction are very small. We haven't issued a new LID in some time. Local Improvement District, for those who don't like the acronym, that's when citizens of a certain area of town want to improve the infrastructure on their street, and they petition the city, or the city could do it by council action if they wanted. That's not done very often. And it's a way for them to get their street fixed or rebuilt or built and utilize the city's resources to do that and pay that back over time. Again, we haven't utilized LID in some time. And the Debt Service Fund, which is how we pay our bond payments, so on and so forth. Capital projects, these are just a smattering of the capital projects we're looking at. So you can see as you go down through all of those, we're making headway on some. Some of them are continuing. Subdivision Trees Program, continuing. We continue to work toward building Blackbird Station Crossing, or whatever the name will be when it's all the smoke clears. Park irrigation improvements, a lot of this stuff. We replace playground equipment as it becomes due. We've accumulated monies for a downtown restroom. Some of these are very large projects. Some of them are smaller projects. Mountain View Road improvements, multimodal transportation improvements, huge projects that require a large accumulation. We're hoping, and as you can see from the Tiger Grant, the LTAC grants, we're trying to get whatever help we can through grants to try and do that, and we've been very successful in the past and hope we will in the future as well. We have accumulations in some of the larger projects as well. These have all been talked about. There are a ton of those, and some of the reserves that we've been talking about. This is all on a capital plan, so there are years that we accumulate, years we expend, so on and so forth. But each one of these projects, A Street improvements is always somebody's favorite. A Street was being worked on 10 years before I came to work at the city, and I've been here forever. And we've got half of it done. Hopefully we'll continue. And of course, with the shuffling around of some LTAC monies in the last 6 months, hopefully we'll get the A Street from Home Street to Peterson. Should get it done, construction to occur in 2019. So, that's it.
Wow.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are you dry? You need a drink of water or anything, Gary?
Something a little stronger.
A couple of comments.
A
couple of comments that I'd like to make before, and then I'll ask council for questioning for you, Gary. But you talked about that $10 million bond, and it is a mayor and council driven bond that we're looking at. And there's going to be many workshops through the fall and the winter on that to explain to people, because whenever you have something like this, you always have those out there that either have misconceptions, wrong ideas, or whatever. But basically, that bond is for fire engines that we know we need. You go over a period of years, and these fire trucks we have, they become obsolete. They don't make the parts for them anymore, and they are spendy. They're not cheap. We've talked about a police department, a new police station that's been in the needs for many years. That's been something that's been looked at for a long time. More money in the streets themselves, and as well as playgrounds for parks that we've got that are undeveloped in our city. And that's what that money is earmarked for, just to make it plain for everybody. But we'll be talking in depth about that. And as you said in May, it'll be up to the citizens if they're interested in it or if they're not interested in it. We'll find out. But we're going to do a lot of talking between now and then so people can see what's going on. Well, I want to just, in this budget also, there's $700,000 in street improvements this year. That's the most money that we've ever had. And that's kind of an on a process that we're doing year over year because our streets have deteriorated for a decade at least. Folks that live out there can tell you that, and it's just streets all over town. It's not just any particular place. And so those are the things that we're trying to do to kind of get caught up and work on. So that's something we're working on. And I wanted to give you something here. Some of the fuel efficiencies. Gary talked about vehicles. We've cut out some of the vehicles of use. And just this year alone, from January to July, our fleet has saved 2,717 gallons of fuel. Now, that might not seem like a lot to people out there, but every time we can save something and we have efficiencies in our fleet department in our city, that's a big deal for all of us that are taxpayers in the city. So those are the things that we keep chipping away at, working towards. With that, I'll open up questions for Gary. John?
I've just got a comment. One of the things that I hear a lot is with a budget of between 65 and 75 million dollars, the city of Moscow should be able to do anything it wants to. And I get these comments from people that pay taxes, so I have a tendency to listen. And what I respond to them is that the city can only spend what it brings in. And we bring in $22 to $23 million a year. So that is the actual amount of money that the city runs on, which is a whole lot different than this budget document. Sometimes it helps cool down these people, other times it doesn't. But you could go into a presentation like Gary just gave us to explain some of these differences between the budget that we approve and the actual amount of money that comes in that is available to be spent on any and all projects. And I am not sure that we oftentimes advertise or let that information out strongly enough to let people know that we do not spend $65 to $75 million a year running this town. We spend about a fourth of that. And other than that, I think Gary gave a great presentation. I think that the budget is in line with what we're trying to accomplish, and I support it.
Shouldn't we hear from the public first?
Well, there's nothing going to happen until we have a public hearing, but you guys got any questions for Gary before I open it up for public hearing?
Your Honor, if I may make a comment too, I really want to thank the council for their efforts with the strategic plan, the mayor for his guidance. Staff has done an outstanding job on this. The department heads did a super job bringing forward reasonable requests and to implement the strategic plan. Especially want to thank Assistant Finance Director Sarah Banks, Accounting Manager Sue Nelson, City Clerk Lori Hopkins, Assistant City Supervisor Jen Piffner, and Judy Davis, our Executive Assistant, among others, just did a fantastic job with the acting finance director. It wasn't quite as smooth as maybe it was in the past, so they really did a fine job of redrafting documents, bringing those to us, to the council on a pretty quick basis. So the quality of the document you see in front of you is because of their work.
Well, and with that being said, too, Gary, this has been a process that's been ongoing for 4 or 5 months. It's something that just doesn't happen in a very short period of time. It's been well thought out, and you're absolutely correct. The staff did a wonderful job on it. There's been many hours of work by many people that's made this thing happen for us. So